the president and his lawyers have responded with this book, and they're saying that they're questioning its authenticity. They're calling it fake. They're saying it's gossip. Is it gossip? Is it journalism? What is it, Michael?
It's what I saw and what I heard in front of my face, in my ears. What is that? I mean, you know, my goal in this book, when I was thinking about what the effect should be, you know, I sat on this couch in the West Wing, sort of part of the furniture, and I thought, if I do this right, the reader will feel like they're sitting on the couch here, hearing, seeing the entire circus go by.
So how often did you sit on that couch? How many times? From what month to what month?
From shortly after the inauguration, pretty much through to when Steve Bannon was left, which was in late August.
So you lost your access when Steve Bannon left. Was he the person who gave you access?
No, I would have, and I was back after that. But that was a point at which I saw, this was originally set up. The original idea was I would do the first 100 days.
Right.
And then the first 100 days it just didn't stop. And so Steve leaving gave me a kind of end.
So you didn't get kicked out by Kelly when Kelly took reins?
No. They were perfectly. As a matter of fact, they actually tried to see me even more because they knew, that it was sort of a balance between, you were talking to Steve, we gotta sort of deprogram you from what Steve might have said.
They?
Other people. Let me just, without saying who I spoke to. The other senior people in the White House.
Yeah. So who did you speak to at the White House? Because how many people did you talk to at the White House besides Steve Bannon and Katie Walsh? You said 200
yes.
people.
Yes.
200 interviews.
200 interviews. So inside, outside, people from Trump's past. I mean, as many people as I thought would have relevant information, I was certainly trying to see. And in terms of in the White House, a deep bench of the people closest to the president.
Including top advisors and top people in the White House?
Absolutely.
Okay, and the president, because you said you interviewed the president for 3 hours. He said that is untrue. The White House says that the last time you spoke to the president was in February, and the conversation wasn't an interview at all, and you were
I don't know what.
Listen, about the book.
I don't know what he thinks of is an interview or not. The conversation I had with him in February was perfectly on the record, or that is to say, he didn't put it off the record. In successive things, when I would see him in the White House, we spoke in a friendly way. Important point here, and this is the point they're trying, of course. They first try to put this as this is about Steve Bannon, when it's not. It's a book about the President of the United States. And then they started to try to put this, I didn't see the President, I only saw the President for this 3 hours. And
they're saying that it was in February, the conversation wasn't an interview. You were telling the President about the book. So how many times did you speak to the President as President?
Okay. You don't tell the president anything because he motor mouths. He just keeps talking at you. So this is not a question of me telling him. It's a question I got this enormous information feed at that moment from the president, as you always do. But again, this is not a book, not about my impressions of the president. It is a book about the impressions of the people around him, of him.
I want to understand, you had this extraordinary access. Did you find it odd that you had this access? Who granted you the access initially? Was it Steve Bannon? Who was it?
No, it was the President of the United States.
You asked him, you said, I'm going to write a book.
Yeah, I want to write a book. I mean, the thing, I've recounted this before. I said, I want to write a book. I want to write a book about the first 100 days. And then he said, a book. Or I said I want to come in and I want to observe, and then he thought I was asking for a job.
Yeah.
And then I said no, I want to write a book, and he said a book.
Yeah.
And then he said, do you know Ed Klein, another writer who he knows, who wrote an anti-Hillary book? Then he said I would like him to write a book about me, and I said but I said, oh, okay. was like, okay. So then I went and told everybody, the president says it's okay.
And so you had access. You went and told everybody who? At the White House in the West Wing?
Yes, I would call up or write an email and say the president has this, and he did. Everybody, this was not a secret. Everybody was told to speak to me.
And in the book, you say that Bannon told people to cooperate.
Bannon told people to cooperate. Sean Spicer told people to cooperate. Kellyanne Conway told people to cooperate.
So then why are they saying it's fake?
Hope Hicks, because they're liars. What are you talking about? This is Donald Trump. This is what he does. A day after day after day after day, incident after incident after incident, he doesn't tell the truth because he doesn't know what the truth is, because he doesn't care what the truth is, because his reality is different from everybody else's reality.
So then what are you saying then? Because you write in the book, I think you say, you talk about the horror of forgetfulness. You say the President Trump's neurosis is, quote, horror of forgetfulness or senility. I want you to explain that, especially in the context of what you're writing about the president in this book, about him not recognizing friends, a succession of friends, you said, who came to Mar-a-Lago. What are you saying about the president?
I am just reporting the facts on the ground. So I am saying, I'm not a doctor, but obviously you don't have to be a doctor to find it notable and alarming that, as everyone on his staff does, that he repeats and repeats and repeats the same thing in the same conversation. I mean, everybody has to stand there and look like this is not a crisis.
You're saying everyone, or are you using that as the understood everyone, or do you mean everyone, including his daughter or his son-in-law?
100%.
Everyone.
Yeah. You can't.
Even his family members?
Yes, you cannot.
Even Kelly?
Yes.
His family members deny it?
Yes, you cannot miss this.
So you think that he is suffering something, he is losing his cognitive abilities?
We can all you just draw this conclusion. I'm just describing the facts as they are. Repetition after repetition. People, and everybody discusses the nature of this, how this has, in the beginning it used to be 25, the same three things in 25 or 30 minutes. And then it became the same three things in 15 minutes and the same three things in 10 minutes. It's notable. In the end, in September, they canceled a 60-minute interview because they felt he couldn't do it. They instead did a Hannity interview because Hannity would give them the questions. I know Hannity denies this, of course, but this was an open secret in the White House. We got the questions.
So what is, as far as the country, the American people, this is the leader of the free world. What do you say to that? Are you saying that all of the people who are in the White House are somehow in cahoots and hiding?
I would say something.
Making excuses for someone who is not.
They are certainly making excuses, but the people in the White House, and these are largely good people, professional people, people who are doing their jobs, people who are thinking about their own careers as well as the good of the country. These are people who think, okay, this is the situation. It's now up to us. It's our responsibility to temper this guy, to protect the country from this guy.
All right, if you're saying so, you're saying this is your quote. You say senility and that possibly dementia. I think that it's mentioned somehow.
No. This is not what I said. I said that that's the kind of thing he's afraid of. That when someone didn't want to, actually when Steve Bannon didn't want to sort of interfere with his relationship with Murdoch, he had Roger Ailes call the president and say Murdoch was losing it. So when you bring up senility and dementia to the president, that's a hot button issue. He doesn't want to know about that.
But why do you think he doesn't want to know about it?
Well, I understand his father had.
Do you think that he thinks that he's suffering from that?
Again, draw the conclusion. I don't know if he thinks that. It is to everybody who speaks to him. If you spoke to the president, if you interviewed the president, you would call me up and say, "Oh my God."
Did you, when you interviewed him, were you thinking, "Oh my God"?
I certainly was.
Why?
Because it's completely alarming. The guy can't go put one coherent sentence after another. He's off. He can't stay on subject.
Do you think
he can't stay on point? And then you come back to the same off-point thing he said 5 minutes ago. He's now saying again.
Do you think that this sort of truncated schedule that has been reported that the president has something to do with that he starts late and ends early?
Well, I certainly wouldn't be surprised, but I also know when he went into the White House and people said, outlined the schedule that it would have to be, he said, what is this? How many meetings are you going to put in a day? I had I'm used to, 1 or 2 meetings.
So you say that the 25th Amendment is brought up all the time in the White House. How exactly? It's sort of a curious measure, and half. I don't know if it's half a joke but it's like one of the things they say. Well, that was weird, but it's not 25th Amendment weird yet. How many times would you say you heard that?
20.
20 times?
Yeah.
By top level people?
Yeah, I don't know
In what context?
And people all of them talk about how alarming the president in his actions and his conversation is. So therefore, it's a measure. How alarming is it? Is it just Donald Trump being Donald Trump? And sometimes they would say that. It's Donald Trump. But sometimes they would say, okay, it's bad. Is it 25th Amendment bad?
So I want to ask you about this, because do you remember when Ronald Reagan, towards the end, and when Nancy Reagan was finishing his sentences? And I guess the media back then didn't really want to talk about it. Do you think that that's happening now? Do you think that it's okay to question the fitness of the sitting president of the United States?
I think it's would be irresponsible not to, of course.
And so for those who are saying that it is grotesque and that it is awful and that it is beneath dignity to question the fitness of Donald Trump,
those are obviously people who want not to question the fitness of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And they don't want to question the fitness of Donald Trump, in part because it's such a unavoidable question.
Let's move on. Let's talk about. Wait a minute. You said it's an unavoidable question. How so?
As I said, you cannot listen to this man talk without at least contemplating the possibility that something is grievously amiss.
Okay, Michael, I want you to stand by. I have a lot more questions for you. When we come back, I want to talk more about what your book reveals about some of the people surrounding the president in the White House. Back with me now, Michael Wolff, the author of Fire and Fury, the best-selling book about the Trump White House. You write that his chief strategist, Steve Bannon, called the 2016 Donald Trump Jr. Tower meeting treasonous and unpatriotic. Bannon has issued a statement now, and he's saying, quote, he said, Donald Trump Jr. is both a patriot and a good man. My support is also unwavering for the president and his agenda. I regret my delay in responding to the inaccurate reporting regarding Don Jr. Has diverted attention from the president's historical accomplishments in the first year of his presidency. Why do you think Bannon folded?
He didn't really fold. I mean, this is the weirdest apology in the world. There's no apology, number one. Number two, he also doesn't disavow anything that he said to me. He takes issue with. He says, "I'm not saying this. I'm saying this about Paul Manafort." You know, I can tell you, and I actually have come to like Steve and think he's a man of enormous insights. but I will tell you how that conversation went, and you can judge for yourself.
Okay.
He gave me the background of that meeting, and he said Don Jr. wanted to get rid of. It was actually Kushner and Don Jr. wanted to get rid of Corey Lewandowski, then the campaign manager. And Bannon said in order to do this, he had to, Don Jr. had to prove he had the chops to his father. He had to bring his father something. And so then the possibility of getting this dirt on Hillary was the thing. So this is exactly what Steve Bannon said to me. So from that, I concluded
that Don
possibly
Jr.'s
I
all in.
concluded wrong.
But what was your conclusion?
But my conclusion was this is what he was saying, principally about Don Jr., not about Paul Manafort. Although Paul Manafort was in the meeting, and I'm sure that that Steve thought not only Don Jr. but Paul Manafort and Jared Kushner were knuckleheads, treasonous or otherwise.
So you think they were all in? You think they knew what was going on to do? Is it as has been said?
I don't. Again, this book is truly not about what I think. There's no I once in this book. Steve Bannon thinks this, and you can infer from that. Does Steve Bannon know? Does he know what happened? Well, he's pretty close to these people.
Yeah. I want to play with, this is what top White House say. This is Stephen Miller. He spoke to Jake Tapper. Here's what he said about Bannon.
It's tragic and unfortunate that Steve would make these grotesque comments so out of touch with reality and obviously so vindictive. And the whole White House staff is deeply disappointed in his comments, which were grotesque. And with respect to the Trump Tower meeting that he's talking about, he wasn't even there when this went down, so he's not really a remotely credible source on any of it. It reads like an angry, vindictive person spouting off to a highly discreditable author. A phenomenon that's happening that the rest of the political class didn't see. All these so-called political geniuses in Washington, whether it be at the big lobbying firms or
the only
many
person
of the
who's called himself a genius
Congress,
in the last week is the president. But
which happens to be a true statement.
Okay.
A self-made billionaire who revolutionized reality TV and who has changed the course
he's
of our
watching
politics.
and he's happy that you said that.
The main goal, pleasing the president when you appear on television? Do you think is that what he was doing, Stephen Miller?
Yeah, I'm sure it was, but I'd also say that Stephen Miller sort of rose from, everybody has, the early staff has left the White House, and it's very hard for them to get new people. So that means the bottom of the rungs have risen up. So Stephen Miller is now probably one of two key advisors to the president in the White House. Steve Bannon called Stephen Miller my typist. Mm-hmm. This is, in other words, we're in a reality so inverted at this point.
But the truth of the matter is that Stephen Miller is not a neophyte. Neither is Kellyanne Conway. When you write about both of them, that she had no national experience. She's a very respected pollster, regardless of whatever you think about what she says and does on television.
Well,
Stephen Miller worked for Jeff Sessions.
You have the media put her into that position as respected pollster. I mean, she is a down ballot pollster. She certainly was not someone before this campaign who anyone would have thought could work on a presidential level. Mm-hmm. Stephen Miller is literally a junior congressional staffer who has rocketed to the top.
You said he could barely put sentences together on paper. It was bullet points when he had to write the executive order concerning immigration, the travel ban.
A very curious thing that he became the central speechwriter in this administration, which really had no speechwriters, which, if you've heard Donald Trump talk, is obviously the case.
You have come on my show before, and here's how I remember you talking about President Trump. Watch this.
First thing, I don't actually think he's thin-skinned at all. I think he's incredibly strategic. I think he He is doing now exactly the things that proved to be so successful during this campaign. He sets up us, literally the media. Who does he run most against? He runs against the media. Because we do the thing, he sets us up, we do the predictable thing, and that plays to the people who have elected him. I mean, I think it's an
But can he be thin-skinned and play the media at the same time?
Yes, he can.
You were on the show a number of times. And you and I talked.
Yes.
Were you playing the long game? Were you playing to an audience of one there?
Not in the least. That was actually what I thought when I went into this, and that's a kind of a central point. I went into this White House almost predisposed to them, to finding out that this could work. I was open. I was willing.
Yeah. I have to ask you about something that is that's close to home. Did anyone at the White House talk to you about the AT&T Time Warner deal merger at all?
Yep.
They did? If so, what did they say?
Not going to happen.
What do they want?
I don't know what.
Why isn't it good? Why it's not going to happen?
I think for probably all of the obvious reasons. The president, Trump, during the campaign said it was not going to happen. Obviously, and I would assume that his antipathy to this network figured in this.
Because of CNN.
Yes, but everybody, not going to happen. Because I would, my other job is I'm a media reporter, so I thought I better do my day job occasionally, and I would say, what about this? No, never.
They have said that they didn't discuss it. It has not been discussed.
Who's it? They?
The White House is saying it's not been discussed, leaving it to the Justice Department.
Well, it may be the individual opinions of everyone I spoke to. Yeah. Do you think this is going to happen? Not a chance.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to say, especially when it concerns the people of the United States, what's happening at the White House, the message that's coming out of the White House, and what is being portrayed in the media about this administration?
Yeah, I think that this book offers an opportunity for people to sit back and to give some thought to what's happened here. One of the interesting things is we get this every day, explosions, and I think you lose track of the larger picture. Yeah. I think that in this book I've given you the forest for the trees.
Thank you very much, Michael Wolff.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.